You are now locked in and listening to The Issue.
This guy is a franchise quarterback, and no, I don't want to hear any pushback on that.
It feels like a top 10 roster to me. It feels like it can win a championship.
This is The Issue.
Yo, what's up? We are back. It is The Issue, Thursday, October 10th, episode 246, and of course, we have a ton of NFL to get to you. Week 5 just wrapped up. It's a crapshoot. If you would have told me that the league as just a landscape picture, if you would have taken a picture of it after week 5 and showed it to me back in August, I would have said you were crazy.
Who had San Francisco with a losing record, right? Who had Minnesota undefeated?
Who had Philadelphia struggling this bad? I mean, I knew that we thought that they wouldn't be
take a step back.
top tier, but we didn't think it would get this bad. But guys, we're going to bring it all to you. The way the show is going to work today, Tim's going to start things off with a rant on the Las Vegas Raiders and Antonio Pierce, more specifically. Dive into that situation there. Then we'll move into hits and misses, go over where we were right and wrong on the week, heading into the second segment, and then we will have week 6 predictions and week 6 bets on a budget to wrap things up. But that's the way things are going to look.
Coming off a winning week, above the sharp line.
I know.
Don't look now. What do I say? We had that 1-4 week. And I've been feeling it the last 2 weeks. And what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, things are definitely turning around. And you got to win in predictions this week. So
finally.
You needed that when you get back on the horse. Record's 4-1 now. You're nipping at the heels. But guys, thanks for tuning in no matter how you're with us today, whether you're watching on Spotify, YouTube, or Amazon Prime Video, or listening on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, the iHeartRadio app, Amazon Music, iTunes. There's a plethora. No matter how you find us, we appreciate it.
So obviously, Davante Adams, that's the biggest the biggest story that's non-directly related to the result of the football game this past weekend, right? Like, what's the overarching story in the league? Well, it's the fact that Davante Adams, still probably a top 10 wide receiver, is requesting a trade, and he wants out of Vegas. And I think I see exactly why. And him and Antonio Pierce don't get along, and I think I see exactly why. And I'm going to side with Davante Adams here. Now, people are like, oh, he hasn't been top 10 since he went to the Raiders. Do you know that he's first in targets? Do you know that he's first in touchdowns since he went to the Raiders among all qualifying receivers? So, yeah, he has been that good since going to Vegas. You just don't know, or you just don't care, because it's not Aaron Rodgers throwing him the football. It's not a successful team like the Green Bay Packers. It's not a team that plays in meaningful games down the stretch. It's not a team that makes the playoffs. So you don't really care about the Raiders. You don't really care about Davante Adams. You may not be clued into that team, that information, but he's still been fantastic since going to Vegas, despite turmoil at quarterback, despite turmoil at head coach. And let's go to that head coach, Antonio Pierce. This is exactly why we don't hire the interim coach. This is exactly why we don't make an emotional decision as opposed to, hey, let's test the market. Hey, let's go with, what works in this league. What works in this league? Please chime in. What works in this league?
Innovative, offensive.
That's it. Those are the best 2 words I could have thought of. And I expected you just to say offensive coaches. I didn't even expect you to say innovative. But who's 5-0 right now? Kevin O'Connell, right? Who's really good? Even I'll give you even defensive. Let's go to your word innovative. Who's successful right now over on the West Coast? How about Seattle? Now, I know they lost this past weekend to the Giants. That's a different discussion. Seattle's been pretty good so far, right? Young, innovative, new, mostly offensive head coaches. Instead, we're going to hire the guy who feels more emotionally kind of invested than he does actually intellectually invested in the sport. I'm not saying he's not a smart football guy, but he's not a Mike McDonald's a defensive head coach. He's not a Kevin O'Connell, right? He's not a Raheem Morris as somewhat young, as a more adaptive, innovative defensive coach. He's not one of those guys. He's a little more old school. He's a little more brash. He's a little more rough around the edges. That's fine. It's 2024. We have to find a way to adapt. Let's just look at a timeline, right, of Antonio Pierce. Let's go back to the offseason. Remember that story that came out? And nobody really wants to talk about it, because it's kind of personal, and people get very uncomfortable when personal stuff comes out about players, coaches, GMs, etc. But it's something, right? That he's down $28 million in debt because of investments to car dealerships. Like, it's something that my head coach is down $28 million in the hole and has creditors after him for $28 million. That's something, right? Like, it's something. How about then? And then he decides, oh yeah, I'll roll with Gardner Minshew as my quarterback. I'm a Gardner fan, but let's not act like that's a real solution at quarterback, especially for your first full season as a head coach. And then during the season, you're going to piss off your best player by, wait for it, liking a picture on Instagram. That's middle school stuff. That is middle school stuff. It's childish. Why is my head coach even on Instagram? That's my question. Why are you even on Instagram? If you're the head coach of the Vegas Raiders, maybe we don't like the picture about Devontae Adams leaving your team. Maybe we don't like that picture, right? I mean, what are we, 11? And then, again, once again, nobody wants to talk about it because it's in a former life. It's a little more personal. He has a suspension from the NCAA. For the next 8 years, he has a show cause suspension for stuff that he did when he was at Arizona State. There's rumors that he was taking parents to strip clubs. I mean, give me a break. This is the head coach of your franchise, and he just got suspended. Well, if he ever shows back up in college football, he will be suspended the day he shows up. Because he was taking recruits' parents to strip clubs. That's the face of your franchise? Oh, and by the way, they got smacked by Denver by a rookie quarterback. He's a defensive coach, and the rookie quarterback went off. Go look at Tomlin's records against rookies. I'm not a huge Mike Tomlin guy. Go look at his record against rookies. Go look at Bill Belichick's. Go look at Pete Carroll's. They're fantastic against rookie quarterbacks. They eat them alive. Bo Nix looked like Joe Montana on Sunday. It wasn't even close. Just listen to, even if all that off-the-field stuff, even if I don't like the character of the coach, even if I don't like the direction of the franchise under the head coach, let's just keep it about football. How is his defense playing so far this season? Well, they're 24th in opposing pass rating. They're 23rd in sacks. That's with Max Crosby, one of the best pass rushers in football. They're 28th in opponents' yards per carry. That's a huge stat in terms of betting. Can you get off the field? Can you stop the run? Nope. They're 20th in yards per play. That's a big betting stat. They're 31st in takeaways. They don't even take the ball away. They have like 2 all year. 2. Give me a break. They're 21st in score percentage. That means how often, a percentage of how often the opponent scores. You know, it's total times they score divided by the amount of drives. Score percentage. Pretty easy. 28th in points per game. That's just the defense. I'm not even going to get started on their offense that's led by Gardner Minshew and nobody else. It's bad. It's putrid. And I'm not even going to get into that. I'm just going to hold him to his side of the ball. Right, like, we can rip on, name your coach. Mike McCarthy. I don't know. The offense looks pretty decent. It's not perfect. I'm not saying it's perfect. It's pretty good. It's been really good for Dallas for the last, half decade under Mike McCarthy. Again, not perfect, but he's got his side of the ball pretty much figured out. Yeah, there's some clock management here and there, but he's got a consistent top 10 offense. I bang on Tomlin, but that's a consistent top 10 defense. I don't think Harbaugh's perfect, but he's got a culture. They run the football. That's exactly what Harbaugh does. He builds a culture. He runs the football. Justin Herbert looks like he's got some direction to his career now. Like, we can bang all these coaches, but they figure out their side of the ball. You've been hearing forever that Lincoln Riley's going to get fired from USC since the day he got hired. I mean, at least the offense is good. I have to see something from you. Your defense isn't even good. It's awful. I just read you the stats. It's terrible. And you're a defensive coach, and this off-the-field stuff, and the decision-making, and the fact that you're not innovative. To me, he is by far, bar none, the 32nd best head coach in football, and I think that is of the active head coaches. I think if I had to rank everybody that could be a head coach, I don't know if I'd have him in the top 50. I think I think Ben Johnson would be a better head coach. Right, so there are coordinators out there. I think Cliff Kingsbury is a better head coach. I don't even like Shane Waldron in Chicago. I think Shane Waldron would be a better head coach. He wouldn't rank in my top 50 of head coaching candidates. Bar none, worst head coach in football for one of the biggest brands in football, the Raiders, in one of the biggest cities in the country in Vegas. Your star player wants out. Your coach is down $28 million, and Gardner Minshew is still getting the freaking snap. I mean, give me a break.
The problems are showing, too. I mean, it's becoming more and more evident the more you watch this team play. Like, it's just not good. There's no semblance of a football team here.
How you can get torched by a rookie quarterback like that is embarrassing.
And if that's what it's going to look like against a rookie, I mean, you're in division with some monsters. You are in division with the Kansas City Chiefs, with
Patrick
the Los
Mahomes,
Angeles Chargers, and
Justin Herbert.
Yeah, and I guess Denver, and you can't even beat them.
He is now. Granted, it's 3 Hall of Famers ahead of him, but he is by far the worst head coach in the division. But it's Harbaugh, Sean Payton, and Andy Reid. So it's most people would be the 4th best quarterback in that or coach in that division.
Yep.
But he is by a mile, to me, the worst head coach in football by a mile.
If you're going to beat anybody in that division, it's going to be Denver, and they couldn't do that. So,
who is even close to him for worst head coach in football? Like Jonathan Gannon in Arizona. At least their defense has been pretty bad. So yeah,
Robert Saleh.
Saleh's probably in there. We like Mike McDaniel, but do we have any evidence that he's that much better? He wins more. He's been to the playoffs, so I guess maybe a little bit.
This is also the first experience without
Tua, and he's
for
been bad.
Like some
I
extended
would say
period of time.
maybe Doug Peterson. I still think Pierce is by far the worst head coach in football.
Yeah. The stats show it too. The numbers are there. Good rant. Anyway, let's go. We have hits and misses to get to.
All right, hit number 1 here. Is it death, taxes, and the Browns doing Browns activities? To get throttled 34-13,
Yeah.
I almost picked the Browns. Thank God I did not. The Commanders, of course, throttle Cleveland. And then Kevin Stefanski comes out and says, we're not making a change at quarterback. How could you? Because of the financial tie. What do you do? What do you do? I feel bad for Stefanski. Now, granted, he must have. You would think he signed off on this Deshaun Watson thing.
Yeah.
But if he didn't, and he just got told this is what it is.
That's a tough spot to be.
What a tough spot. Because I'm pretty sure we know Stefanski's a good coach. Maybe not great, but we know he's at least good.
He's serviceable.
He's top 16. I would say he's top half of the league.
Yeah, it's a laundry list of things though. You have your starting quarterback walking off the field on a 4th and 1 when you're trying to go for it, so you have to run the field goal team out there and kick. It's just there's noise all over the place.
It's just
now,
bad.
Does this say? I know it's Cleveland, but Cleveland generally has a pretty good defense. Is this a spot to kind of praise Jaden Daniels a little bit too? Putting up that amount of points, looking that good.
Well,
he was on point.
No, he was definitely on point.
I guess a very solid defense.
We're actually going to get to him in a little bit, so I'm going to defer that question because we do have a topic in hits and misses on Jaden Daniels.
Cool.
So we'll save it for that. Miss number 1 here. Is Daniel Jones good at football? I'm just saying. I'm not saying he's great, but I saw things this most recent game, and I saw him against Dallas too, and it's the little things. You think it's crazy? But on a screen pass when nothing's there and he dirts the ball, right? Or he throws the ball away, or he slides really early. There's little things I'm seeing where it's like he's never going to be a top 10 guy, but is he slowly inching his way into a professional quarterback?
I was going to say, these are things that you're mentioning that, if you're a quarterback in the NFL, especially at this price point,
expected.
You should be able to do that.
Yes.
Now,
is he inching closer to, Teddy Bridgewater, where he got a contract, which obviously Daniel Jones already got signed, but, when Teddy signed with Carolina, nobody thought Teddy Bridgewater was a very good quarterback.
No.
But he was a serviceable professional quarterback. He still had a little bit of mobility, a little bit. Accurate enough, knows the system. Is he inching towards that?
I'm not closed off to the idea, but until further notice, I'm going to see more. I need to see more.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's top. Somebody this weekend said it was a hot take, but top 20. Disagree on that.
Yeah, no.
I would say he's top 25, top 30. He's probably top 25.
Top 25. I'll give him top 25.
Yeah, hit number 2 here. This is finally the Bears team that we expected to see. This is the Bears team that I predicted can actually make a run at the division, can make a run in the playoffs, and actually get to the NFC Championship game. This is exactly the Bears team I thought I would see. Dominating defense. Caleb pushing the ball downfield. They're finally able to run the football a little bit. DJ Moore looks like the number 1 he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Now, is it Carolina? Is that bad? Or the Bears are actually becoming good?
I think it's a mixture of both. I think it's a good offense that's getting ready to explode, getting ready to take that next step forward against a team that's just really not all there. It's a combination of both, but I was impressed by Chicago. Caleb Williams looked good. He made a lot of really nice throws. You saw what you needed to see there. And honestly, at least it's good. It's good quality reps at the NFL level.
Yeah, even if it's not the best competition, he's that's
what he needs
getting
right now.
Good reps. He's learning. He's getting. You could see. I'm just happy because I can see him getting better week in and week out. You can see the progression as a young quarterback, and that's all you can ask for. Miss number 2 here. I came out 2 weeks before the draft. No, not even. Was it right? No, it was right before the draft. We kind of knew where the quarterbacks were going to go. We knew Caleb was going 1. We knew Jaden was going 2. We didn't know if Drake May was going to go 3 or not. We had a good feeling, but you didn't know. Maybe they were going to trade out of the pick. Whatever. I said I will stamp my claim that Drake May is going to be a better NFL quarterback than Jaden Daniels. Now, the only thread of hope I can hold on to that argument is, 1, Drake May hasn't played yet. But I don't expect him to have the best start to a season of any quarterback in the history of the league.
Yeah.
Especially as a rookie. This has been a torrent pace. I don't expect him to do that. My only thread of hope would be, do we think Jaden, who is a slighter athlete, can withstand as much and as long of a career as somebody like a Drake May? If Drake May is... if Drake May is the 8th best quarterback and Jaden's the 5th best quarterback in the league, say 5 years down the road, that's the case, but Jaden misses 6 games a year, who's the better player, right? So, that's the only thread of hope I can have. You know what I mean?
That he becomes more available.
Is that Drake is good, and he's a more durable athlete, and he has a longer runway. You know what I mean? He is built to be able to last 10, 12 years. Jaden Daniels is looking
solid.
No,
I've been on him since the beginning.
I couldn't agree more. So what was the question? You said, are we sure the Browns suck, or is Jaden Daniels that good?
Yeah, is he that impressive? Where he's putting up those stats, those numbers against a very good Cleveland defense. The Cleveland defense is no joke.
I would say, I think it's overrated, but you're right. It's still a good defense. Yeah. I think a lot of people talk about a top 5. I think it's closer to top
15.
I think it's closer to top 15, maybe 12, 13, somewhere around there.
Either way, it's a top half of the league defense.
Sure. I would say it's a little bit of a mixture of both, because here's what I'll say. It's the best defense that he's played up to this point, and he carved it up, right? So with what the people that are on his schedule, this has been the hardest defense yet, the most difficult defense yet, and he looked fantastic. So yeah, kudos to him. Hit number 3 here. The Steelers taking a step back offensively. I don't even know if it's taking a step back. I guess just staying how they've been for the last, half decade offensively. Unwatchable, boring, conservative, play calls that leave you scratching your head. We've rotated through quarterbacks. We've rotated through coordinators. We've rotated through star players, centers, offensive lines. And it's the same exact problems year in and year out. And I've said it from the very beginning. There's only one person that has withstanded the test of time in which we have record of all of these problems. There's only one common denominator, and it is Mike Tomlin. Period. End of story.
I agree. And then I'll attest to it being boring. I watch every NFL game. I watch every Sunday night game from the first kickoff to the last play. And I have proof of this that I can show you. I was asleep for the last 3 quarters of the game. I watched the first quarter, and then I was just asleep. I was bored. I was physically and mentally bored watching the game. There was no life on the offensive side of the football in Pittsburgh. Their defense, yeah, they had a lot of picks.
I was upset that they couldn't stop the run.
Yeah, they couldn't stop the run, but Dak couldn't stop throwing it to Pittsburgh. So it was just it was a weird game. I was not impressed anything that I saw with Pittsburgh. Now, this leads me to the question, Russ is going to be healthy next week.
No, Justin Fields. Justin Fields, to me, is not the problem whatsoever. Not the problem.
I agree. I was just trying to see where you're at.
I would say it's still Justin's job.
Because there are people out there saying that Russ should start when he comes back. That he was named QB1, that he's going to start, and that they're going to bench Justin Fields, which is just ridiculous.
At this very moment, I would disagree with that statement. Who knows in 5 weeks, talk to me, or 2 weeks even. You never know. But miss number 3 here, finally. We had the Rams damn near being the number 1 or 2 seed in the NFC. I expect them to be very good. Coach Quarterback Weapons League. They have 2 of the best 10 receivers in football. They have Matt Stafford as a top 5 to 10 quarterback. Sean McVay's a top 5 head coach. I figured they'd be good. But obviously, when you don't have Cooper Kupp, you don't have Puka Nacua, your offensive line's beat up, Stafford's getting his shit kicked in. Yeah, I guess I should have seen this if I knew the injuries were there. I was
gonna say, if we knew that the injuries were coming, we can't see that. That's the one thing there that saves us from just being completely off. But yeah, it's not the start we predicted.
If they can get healthy, say they can get healthy say they can make it till 2-6. Is this team can they go run the table and win 9 straight and get to the playoffs?
They could.
Do you see them at this point? Do you see them as a legitimate NFC contender?
If they get in, they're a contender. If they make a wild card, they're a contender. But I don't know if they would.
I think I feel that way about. I feel that way about Cincinnati. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but if they do, I wouldn't want to play them.
Exactly, and that's how I feel about the Rams. I would never want to face a Sean McVay coach team in the playoffs. Matt
Stafford.
No way.
If Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua are healthy, I'm out. Yeah.
No way.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah, that's a buzzsaw in the playoffs. McVay's playoff experience, not a shot. But guys, that is hits and misses. That's everything we have there. We will be back, so don't go anywhere during the break. We will have Week 6 predictions and Week 6 bets on a budget.
Oh, welcome in second segment, The Issue. We are into October. What, second episode in October now?
Yeah, October 10th.
Second episode in October. Getting a little chilly depending on where you are. Obviously, thoughts go out to those down south with the floods and all that fun stuff. Up north, though, it is starting to get a little bit chilly. It's fall. It's finally fall. It's football season. However you did find us, whether that be YouTube or Spotify or iHeart, or etc., make sure you go like, subscribe, review, comment. Did I leave out any ways of...
Send to a friend, maybe.
Send to a friend.
That's about it.
Did I get everything?
Yeah.
Write to us. Write a post-it note or like a letter.
Handwritten letter, preferably.
Send it with an owl. Whatever, yeah.
Send it with an owl.
Yeah. Either way, we appreciate you getting here. Interact with us somehow. By any means. Even if it is sending a bird.
Owl's Harry Potter. Pigeon is back in the day.
You know what's crazy?
You've never watched it. I know.
Never even read a page.
Well, that's more normal than not watching it. I feel at this point. I feel like it's such a staple to everything.
There's no way that you just said Harry Potter's a staple.
It is.
That's absurd to say.
Anyway,
I could not disagree more.
We have the Week 6 predictions here to get to. We're going to get into all that, dive into bets on a budget, the normal second segment activities. So we're going to start with the predictions. Every pick for every game. Here we go.
So I'm finally coming off a winning week. We look to keep that going. Went 4-3 on 7 splits. This week's going to be quite the opposite. We were struggling to find 3 splits. So let's start on the Thursday night game. Obviously tonight, the Niners traveling to Seattle. Yes. I like San Francisco. I know that they're playing under standard, right? Under their standard that they've set with a lot of injuries and such. But I like the matchup against Seattle. They can be run on, right? We saw it 2 straight weeks. We saw Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery get whatever they wanted on the ground. We saw last week Daniel Jones be effective down the field a little bit. We saw even their backup running back Tyrone Tracy had over 100 yards. Yeah. So this defense can be run on. We obviously know no matter who's in the backfield, San Francisco can run the ball and play action off of that. I like San Fran.
And they also have that aura to them where it's almost like the Chiefs, where it's I can't pick against them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wish he just would not. The younger generation ruined the word aura for me.
Oh, okay.
So as soon as you said it, I immediately cringed. But I do agree with the statement that you just said.
Okay, the word hasn't been ruined for me yet.
Okay, well, you'll get there. Jacksonville at Chicago. Huge Chicago guy here. I think it may be a 2-score game.
Yeah, I think Chicago's offense is finally starting to take those steps forward that they were going to, but Carolina aided in that, kind of gave them just a glorified offensive practice, if you will. So, yeah, I like them by a lot of points this week.
Yeah, Arizona at Green Bay. I thought for a tick, I thought about Arizona, but
I just can't.
I'm going to go Green Bay. I think especially at home, if it was in Arizona, I'd probably consider, but I'm going to go with Green Bay at home.
Yeah, a lot of agreement here. I'm going Green Bay as well.
Bucks at the Saints will both take the Bucks. I think I get a better quarterback in Baker, so for me, that's a huge factor.
I thought I might have baited you into a Saints pick there.
I was close. I mean, we liked the Saints last week at +5.5. I think the Saints are fine. I've been a more Derek Carr supporter guy than most people that you find on the internet or find in the media. But I think Baker's a better player.
Yeah,
I think Baker's a better player.
I agree. I think the team's better.
Well, that too. Browns at the Eagles. You're actually going Eagles. I'm
going Browns.
My bad. You're going Browns. I read it backwards. I'm going Eagles. I was going to say, wait a minute. I'm going Eagles. I thought we were split.
I mean, if you want to switch.
No, I'm going to go with the Eagles. I like the fact that they're coming off a bye, to be quite frank. I think I have the better coach in Stefanski with the Browns, but I will at least take...
You don't have the Browns.
No, I know. Can you let me finish?
Yeah.
I think that you have a better coach in Stefanski.
Yes.
But I get a bye. So yeah. I'm going to go with Philadelphia.
Okay. I'm going with Cleveland, even though I hated what I saw last week. I hated it.
You just don't think Philly's playing very well.
I do not have really any trust in the Eagles anymore until further notice.
That's fair. Next split here, Commanders at the Ravens. I did consider for a second. You went Commanders. I considered for a second. I'm going to go Ravens. I think Jane Daniels could be Lamar Jackson, but he's not yet Lamar Jackson. I'm going to go with the Ravens. Lamar's only lost one game in his career against the NFC. He's like 21-1 against the NFC. There's just nothing in-house to prepare for somebody like that.
And you don't see him often.
Right, and now I guess, in theory, maybe Washington's the best team because they have the next closest guy to him in-house to prepare, but you're getting the second-string guy as the practice squad guy, as the Lamar Jackson alike in practice. So I'm going to go Ravens.
Yeah, trust me, I agree with you on most of this. I don't feel great about this pick, but at the same time, there's something telling me the momentum's there for Washington that if they are going to win this game, it's going to be in this spot. You know what I mean? Like if Washington's going to beat the Ravens this year, it's going to be now when they're riding this high. Yeah. So for that reason, I'm going Washington. I think there's a spark there. I don't know if it's going to be enough to get over Baltimore, but for this week, I'm predicting it will be.
Houston at New England. Houston's a much better team. I'll take Houston.
Yeah, no discussion needed there. Houston all the way.
Colts at Titans now. I think there's a possibility that the Titans may be the worst team in football, but I like that they are coming off a bye. So for me, off a bye and at home, I don't know who's starting at quarterback for Indianapolis. I would argue I'd prefer Joe Flacco, but obviously if Anthony Richardson's good enough to go, he'll go. And actually, I hope he does, because if so, I think he'll be rusty, and he's been unrefined all season. I'm not saying Will Levis has been much better, but off a bye, offensive coach, maybe they can kind of get something together, at least enough in this spot. I'll take the Titans.
I see what you're saying there, but I'm going Colts. I just like, no matter who starts at quarterback, I like it more than the situation that you have with Levis in Tennessee. It's just, I don't know. I have a hunch it's a pick'em game. I'm going Colts.
No, I mean the Colts are the better team, so I don't think you're crazy here. It is.
Well,
a pick'em.
What's the spread? 1 point?
Yeah, Indy's favored by one. So like I said, it's a pick'em, but Vegas slightly favors Indy. Chargers at the Broncos. I'm going to go with the Chargers. I thought for a second about the Broncos here, but again, Chargers off a bye. I'll go Chargers.
Yeah, Chargers. Bo Nix. He'll get the lucky wins here and there, but that's not going to happen against a Harbaugh coached team.
I would agree. Steelers at the Raiders. Despite their shortcomings, they're a much better team than the Raiders. It's a much better run organization, better coach.
Defense,
quarterback play. Top to bottom, I think we have a stronger unit at every single level, and that goes the whole way up to the owner, so I'll go Steelers.
Yeah, Steelers as well.
Falcons at the Panthers. Again, Falcons it's a significantly better team.
I just can't, in good faith, pick the Panthers. I will not do it once this year.
I will at some point. I did it last year, and it was a miracle when it hit.
You had them right for the first 8 weeks of the season last year. You faded them at the right times, picked them at the right times.
I think they're only 1-7, so.
I guess there was the one.
The one time I actually picked them. Yeah. Right. Lions at the Cowboys. I did think about the Cowboys for a second, but I'm going to go with the Lions.
Just better team, better coach, better quarterback.
I was just about to say, I'm a huge Goff guy. We know I'm a Goff guy.
Yeah.
I agree.
And Dak did not impress me at all on Sunday night. He shrunk. He's pretty good in prime time.
Yeah, I was impressed with their run game, but I think that's more of an indictment on the Pittsburgh defense than it is the Dallas offense.
Yeah.
So I don't expect that to carry over a ton. Bengals with the Giants. I'll go Bengals. I think it's a better team, although I like what I see out of Daniel Jones.
Better quarterback than Burrow.
It's the weirdest thing because I said it earlier, if the Rams get into the playoffs and are healthy, I wouldn't want to play them. Same thing with the Bengals. It's they're 1-4. If they played Pittsburgh tomorrow, who do you take?
I would take Cincinnati. I would take Cincinnati.
Right. I am in total agreement. So if they're 1-4, but they're favored by 3.5 on the road in prime time, that tells you everything you need to know about the perception of these teams. And then finally, Monday night game, Bills at the Jets. I'll go with the Bills. They're gonna play pissed off too. So yeah,
Bills. Even though that was a clunky game that we saw.
I mean, yeah, they lost 2 straight. It's. I have my doubts about Sean McDermott. That the clock management at the end of that Houston game was one of the worst things I've ever seen from a head coach in a long time. Now I know it's they had timeouts anyway. I don't care. You run the football there. You go to overtime with a better quarterback. I know C.J. Stroud's good, but Josh Allen's a better quarterback right now. You run the ball, you punt the ball, and then you get to overtime with, again, what I view as a better quarterback. But either way, I think they're going to come out fire into their ass Bills.
I agree. Run us back through the splits. There's only 3 of them.
I have the Eagles, you have the Browns, I have the Ravens, you have the Commanders, I have the Titans, you have the Colts.
Okay. Yeah, not as much disagreement as last week.
Not as divided as last week. Didn't last week we have 8, and we actually had to. We had 8, but then you thought twice about one, and we dropped down to 7.
Yeah,
that's absurd.
We had 7 splits the last 2 weeks. Weeks 3 and week 4.
And they've been 4-3 weeks both times, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. It's close.
18-9 is where the standings are at right now.
Yeah, not good
in total
on that.
picks. I'm up 4-1 in weeks.
Yeah, not good.
But now we have bets on a budget. So we have the 5 best lines from around the league that we could find for week 6. All 5 spreads, I should mention. Let's go.
Start off Chicago -2.5 versus Jacksonville. The hook's on my side, so we can get covered by a late second field goal. Obviously, if it's tied, that being the point. But you're always looking, when you're in betting, you're looking for those numbers that are just under typical margins in NFL games. So you see a lot of 23-20s, right? So that 2.5 is underneath. If it's 3.5, I don't like the number as much. 2.5, I absolutely hammer the number. You have to have rules in betting to have some sort of consistency long term.
Yeah.
So we always bet -4. I will always bet -2.5 if I think that team is even close to as good or better than the team that's an underdog. So this is one of those situations where, yes, Jacksonville played well. Do I really expect Indianapolis' defense is not very good?
No.
So do I expect Chicago's defense, who is much better, to give up that many points to Jacksonville?
I do not.
No. And I expect Chicago to be able to score. I think it's more of a touchdown game, but to be safe, I like the -2.5.
Yeah, the -2.5 makes sense, and this is one that can get out of hand, especially with a hot offense in Chicago. Like, they're catching their stride. This is where decent and mediocre teams get whacked if you're playing them.
I would agree. Washington +6.5 at Baltimore, first underdog here of the week. I know that we perceive them as Baltimore's up here because they've had this success already, and Washington's down here because it's young quarterback,
Sure.
Not first time head coach, but first time on this team head coach, right? New coordinators, etc., etc. But when you actually look at the stats this season, they're very similar teams. I like Baltimore. I know you like Washington, but I cannot swallow 6.5 points. I would absolutely take the +6.5. This is normally a number where I wouldn't touch it because a lot of games are decided by 7 points. You'd get screwed there. I think it's like a field goal game. I think it's like a 24-21 type of game. So if not, maybe a little more high scoring than that. I like Washington to cover the 6.5.
Yeah, of course, I like the 6.5 here because I like Washington to win outright. This is going to be a very, very tight game. You're getting the closest thing to Baltimore to play Baltimore. And it's a matchup that we haven't seen yet. And we've never seen Lamar play a younger, same kind of version of himself. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be must-see television. I'm going Washington.
For your knowledge, and a lot of bettors that like Washington better than Baltimore as a team, they are +236 on the money line according to Fox Bet.
Okay.
Cleveland +8.5 at Philadelphia. That's just too large of a spread. Underdogs of 8 or more are hitting at like an 80% clip against the spread.
So we got to go with that.
So I love Philly coming out of a bye. I just don't love that number. If it's 6.5, I think I may go Philly. But if it's 8.5, I like Cleveland. It feels very, 30-24 to me. I think Philly still wins. I'll take Cleveland to cover that 8.5.
I love that one. I'm taking Cleveland to win, so I'll agree with you there.
Yeah, which I'd have to pull up the money line on that, but I'm sure that's also a hefty one where if you like them outright, you might as well just want to take them on that.
You might as well just parlay the two together and find another one to do it here.
You could. In fact, Cleveland is +346.
So if those hit,
great odds.
There we go.
Great odds. Tampa Bay +2 at New Orleans. I feel like I'm getting a better coach, a better quarterback, a better offensive line. Run games are hit and miss for both teams. I'd probably lean New Orleans on that.
Yeah.
Defenses are about comparable. I know I'm getting better weapons in Tampa Bay. I'll go Tampa. I like Baker Mayfield a lot. I'll go Tampa.
I'm going Tampa as well.
We like them again. We like them to win outright. So why not take the 2 points?
This is I wouldn't even really classify them as a dark horse team, but it's my kind of darker horse team to come out of the NFC.
Well, and isn't it? They played on Thursday. New Orleans played on Monday. So we're going the longest, without a bye included. We're going longest possible rest and shortest possible rest To me, that's a recipe for Tampa Bay success.
Yep.
Houston -7 at New England. I know I said big favorites have not been hitting as much as we'd like this year.
But it's Houston and New England.
But about once every other week, we've been hitting one, and it's nailed pretty much every single week. I think this is the one to look out for in terms of a route game. I would go Houston -7 at New England. I just don't know who's scoring for New England. Is there one player on the Patriots offense that starts for Houston?
Not at receiver, not a quarterback, not at running back.
Their offensive line's not very good either.
No.
Like, I thought maybe like a guard, but
And this D'Amico Ryan's coach defense is insane in Houston. So they look really good too.
Insane. It's good. It's very good.
They look really good.
Very good. I think Christian Gonzalez would be the only one that would start. But yeah. So to run back through, we have Chicago -2.5. Two big underdogs in Washington and Cleveland at +6.5 and +8.5 respectively. We'll have Tampa Bay at +2 and Houston to be our route of the week at -7 at New England.
There it is, Week 6 bets, guys. Go check it out. You can find this posted on our social medias on the Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. It is all over at theissuesports.com. Will guide you there, so make sure you go check that out. Guys, subscribe to the show, follow along, like the content. We really appreciate it going through the NFL season. We'll be bringing it all the new information to you every single week, every single Thursday. But guys, we will be back next Thursday to wrap up Week 6 and discuss Week 7, and that was The Issue.